Join us. Circle the globe. The planet is your hunting paradise. And one man will show you the world as you've never seen it before. Danger won't stop him. Nature won't break him or prevent him from doing the impossible. Hunting the earth with bow and arrow. Be there to share this adventure. The ultimate journey for the ultimate shot.
In this episode of Ultimate Shot, we will hunt grizzly in the areas where in 1896 the gold fever attracted thousands of gold diggers. Here in the Yukon, enormous crowds of adventurers, possessed by the idea of quick profit, got on the boats. With its every cruise, the legendary Klondike boat took thousands of gold diggers to their fate. Our journey to the Yukon wilderness starts from here too. Livingston, the post office, was the only building in this part of the wild Yukon that carried the sign of civilization and law among the frenzied and profit-hungry adventurers who came from every corner of the earth. After the long and cold winter, animals and birds are enjoying the first greenery. On the road, they had just discovered some fresh grizzly tracks.
It's at least 8 foot, so 2 meter 40, 2 meters and 40 centimeters at least. That's his droppings.
The tour with the ATVs to examine the tracks in the area had no result, so the hunters went on foot among the hills dug by the gold diggers. Very soon they could see, with their own eyes, the tracks of the giant wolves that inhabited the area. These are the heirs of the dogs abandoned by gold diggers and the wild wolves. There are traces of the gold diggers' activities everywhere. The only thing which was missing in this picture, for us to be carried away into some Jack London's novel, was the fact that these adventurers were missing too. Here, no human foot had stepped for almost 100 years.
Remember? I told you.
At this time of year, the sun goes reluctantly low under the horizon, but only for 3 to 4 hours. The new day brought new hope to the hunters. The fresh bear tracks which they found in the morning appear to be left by a female, because along the same road a male grizzly bear was coming slowly towards them. Attracted by the smell of the female, he was coming quickly to the hunters. The track which the animal was following passed right below the skirt of the hill where they were hiding. Vertical displacement, which the hunter did not consider while he was shooting, played a dirty trick on him.
Now, shoot! Ah!
Correct. Very good to that.
The ultimate shot was to the advantage of the bear, who, untouched by the bullets, headed for cover. Everyone has a memory which they cherish, despite the failure.
But now, I'd like to show you my best ultimate shot.
We've had so much excitement and bone-chilling thrills this hunt, just with these bears. I mean, it's absolutely awesome. We've seen gorgeous country, we've had gorgeous weather. We've worked hard, we've packed hard on the caribou. We got a 426 caribou. We walked in here today, found this miraculous spot. I mean, we just knew we'd see a bear here. We were bullshitting about big moose and big caribou and grizzly bears and just bullshitting away, lying down. And all of a sudden Brad said, there he is. And that big grizzly bear came out there and 3 seconds grabbed a salmon and went back in the brush. But he just went right in the edge of the alders and stopped and ate it. We discussed what to do, and Brad suggested I come forward here into the wind, go sideways into him, down to the stream bed, take a shot from him because he was going to come back downstream. I came down here and it's dry leaves, and through those alders, my bow and my bow scabbard and all the shit I had in my pistol. And every time he put his head down to eat that salmon, I'd walk. Every time he'd lift his head, I'd stop. He heard me. Just as he was finishing the salmon, he heard the alders, he heard my bow or my arrows go against the alders, and he came out to the stream bank and stood up, looked. I froze, I never moved. I thought for sure he was going to go, but the wind was right on my face. And his gut said he had to get another salmon. He didn't see one at the same spot he'd taken the one before, and he started downstream. I had an arrow knocked. I waited and waited and waited. He was coming towards me, quartering towards me for about 15, 20 yards, and then finally he turned around to head back upstream, and he gave me a quartering away shot, and I sunk that arrow right in behind the shoulder, and I mean, he just disappeared. I didn't even, I'm sure that arrow is either gone through him or it's pretty well right through him, those beaming arrows. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And I didn't even know it hit him. I mean, he didn't know, and he died there within 15 yards of where the arrow hit him. I mean, that shows you the power of a bow and arrow, and how if you use a compound bow with sights, it's a deadly, deadly weapon that you can be proud to display to any outfitter in the world. I mean, there's no question. To kill an animal like that, that is the greatest trophy I've ever taken on my own or with anybody hunting. I mean, anywhere.
For your successes in hunting, we can discover your ultimate shot together. And now we bring you to the European continent in Romania, where the population of brown bears is so big that forays on domestic animals are something very common. Once a bear has tried the taste of meat, which is always in easy reach, it becomes a predator forever. Its forays in the farmyards will continue every time it feels hungry. The Romanian peasants turn to the hunters for help, quite often to put an end to some bears' forays. The hunting method of the Romanians is unique and can be seen only here. The driven hunt of this big and aggressive animal is extremely dangerous, having in mind that dogs are used to drive the bears out of the forest. Every hunter knows that a bear running wildly in the woods is not an easy target at all, and even worse, when it is running straight towards you. The difference to the wild boar-driven hunts, where the dogs are always chasers, is that here you often see the bear chasing the four-legged assistant hunter. In this battue, only bear cubs ran out of the woods, and there were no accidents. Unfortunately, the big carnivorous bear did not show. Big mature bears are very clever and are very difficult to scare with the distant dogs barking. Only a direct attack could drive them out of the place where they lurk during the day. The hunting expedition goes on, and the hunters continue to the next area where they will try their luck again. The accidental encounter of the group of hunters with a female bear shows how big the brown bear population is here in the Carpathians. The battue continues, and we again become witness to the wild race between dogs and bears. Maybe you have already guessed why this dog is running for its life. Annoyed by the raids of men and dogs in their forest domain, the bears become dangerous and walk around the woods, hungry for vengeance. But this applies to the young animals only, and the real predator of the attacks on wildlife is resting, waiting calmly for the commotion to pass by. In this segment of The Ultimate Shot, together with my friends, we will hunt in Bulgaria for a trophy Eurasian brown bear. In this part of the European continent, and especially on Bulgaria's mountainous territory, brown bear hunting has been prohibited for decades. Licenses for shooting are given only when certain animals become man-eating or attack domestic animals and people. If you want to shoot such a bear with a bow, the problem lies not only in the conditions in which you have to make the shot, but also in the danger of being caught in the claws of a wounded bear that looks virtually identical to the North American grizzly, but has a long history of being more people unfriendly. In addition, and a serious complication to the hunting process, is the fact that the really big brown bears come out into clearings where they are visible only during the night when it is pitch black. And we're going to make a sight for tonight at midnight to try and take a brown bear, maybe even some wild boar. Darkness is the greatest problem for the archer. The night vision devices that I had could not be adjusted to the specific requirements of archery. I had to make some slight modifications. We ended up creating last night in the dark. So as you can see, I mean, it's pretty flimsy. We could break it. We've got to come up with something new. So we're going to create a new sight with a piece of wood and some nails, and have a pin at 8 centimeters and maybe one at 10. In my worldwide hunting adventures, quite often I was forced to apply unusual methods to succeed in hunting certain species. More than once it turned out that the simplest solutions are the best ones. So with the bow sight, improved by me, tonight I will try to do something no one has done yet in this part of the European continent.
That's good.
In complete darkness, with the help of night vision goggles, I hope to arrow the problem bear. The brown bear is the mightiest animal in these woods. A mature male specimen reaches the impressive weight of 500 pounds. Bears feed mainly on fresh green leaves and sprouts of bushes and grass. They have a particular liking for wild fruit, such as berries, pears, and plums. The forest mushrooms, snails, and frogs, as well as small rodents, are delicacies on their menu. The brown bear is a typical forest species. It inhabits the spacious, wood-covered regions, the quiet, sunless clearings where human presence is minimal or lacking. In the recent past, bears were almost totally exterminated in Western Europe. In this century, man has pushed out the brown bear to the point where its only habitat is in the mountains, and in the wild, spacious woods of Eastern Europe. They also exist to the north in Scandinavia, Russia, and Belarus. To the south, they inhabit some regions in Spain and Italy. The bear is basically a vegetarian, but in certain situations, when food is scarce or the population has grown so big that the animals start entering territories inhabited by man, it is possible for the brown bears to start attacking domestic animals in the forest fringe areas and the small towns and village suburbs. Such was the case that brought me here to Bulgaria. In the mountain areas of the town of Elpriltsi and the surrounding small villages, the bears, protected by law, did some raids. Some farmers had lost sheep, others had seen bear tracks, even around their houses. For the hungry bears, even massive locked doors are no obstacle. After the bear attacked a woodcutter, the whole situation became unbearable, and something had to be done. At this spot, the game guards had recorded the tracks of the bear. And now, the bear was no further than 70 yards away from me, but I could not see it through the bow sight. The wild boars, which only a short while ago were gathered over the corn, scattered around the meadow, ran away, grunting nervously. The bear was really big. This was the bear that the government wanted us to take now. But in the deep darkness, the mighty silhouette was not visible through my bow sight. We discussed and we decided my only chance was to use the rifle with the high optics telescopic sight. Maybe the scent that we had left while we were approaching the blind and where we had stopped to do some videography had unnerved the beast too much. Despite its fears, the bear went to the feeding trough, attracted by the smell of the food. After the shot, the bear ran to the thickest cover in the forest. The roar that split the silence of the dark and the peaceful night was unimaginable. Fear, fury, and pain sounded clearly in the wails that were moving away from our stationary position. The rays of the searchlight were going around the trees, and we, with senses excited by adrenaline, were examining every bush and tree trunk, and they all looked like bears to us. Then he was there. We had found the lethally wounded animal almost immediately. Lying no further than 70 yards from the wood's edge, he could go no further. And then he moved and was gone from the bright light of the searchlight just before I made the final shot. Now we had no choice. We had to get into the blind and wait for support, despite our desire to follow the wounded animal. At sunrise, we left the blind and went to check on the bear's tracks. We saw clearly the dark blood that stained the grains of corn. The tracks on the meadow led exactly to the location where we saw the bear's silhouette. The bloody trail was clearly seen everywhere. In a while the support came. Herr Director, as we called him jokingly, had risen before dawn after we called him, and he had called 2 of his helpers. The dog that he had brought with him was not a typical blood follower, but obviously he had some noble blood in his veins, because he caught the scent trail right away. We saw the bed where the bear had rested not long before, and evidently it was us and all our conversation and noise that had brought it out of its stupor. The situation was extremely serious. Human victims during bear hunts was more the rule than the exception when a bear is wounded. The hunting guides and Herr Director had personal memories from a few years before, when in a similar situation, a big wounded bear tore the scalp and the skin off the face of a famous German hunter. They shot the bear point blank, while the bear and the hunter danced the dance of death, and they know who otherwise would have won. The tension grew to incredible heights when we heard the giant's angry roar from the trees below us. The dog who ran following the tracks had come back now, and his wound from his up-close and unfriendly meeting with the bear showed clearly that this wild animal had no intention of giving up without a fight. We were approaching step by cautious step the location from which we had heard the growling. It was not coincidental that the bear had stopped in the thickest part of the woods. And since it was obviously aware and conscious of our every sound and movement, it was expecting the enemy. I was moving along the thicket, trying to see a patch of brown fur or something out of place on the forest floor, when Lady Luck smiled upon me, and I saw the bear in a small depression near an overturned tree's roots, right in front of me. Quickly I raised the bow, and I shot the arrow straight into its neck. It was a lethal shot, and the bear collapsed and tumbled down the forest slope like a rolling log. The brown bear was a big bear indeed. Its body was about 2.5 yards long, and its weight was more than 500 pounds. We are not exactly sure that this bear was the man-eater from Apriltsi, but it is a fact that after our hunt, there were no more big bear attacks on people in this place. In the next episode of The Ultimate Shot, be with us in Ethiopia on a face-to-face dangerous hunt with a huge male hippo. We will show you why these animals are considered to be among the most dangerous for the people living on the continent of Africa. In fact, records indicate that more locals are killed by hippos than any other animal or reptile in Africa. We will also attempt to be one of the first to take a trophy Nile buffalo. And we will invade the swamps, the home of monster crocs and hippos, and chase a big water buck around, through, and in the muddy water channels. Stay with us and experience again the magic of the African continent and our exciting, adventurous, and dangerous quest for the ultimate shot.